Finally, some country music. Yay. All right. Well, 94 days ago, Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race. And since then, Vice President Harris has been accused of being part of a massive cover up, hiding the truth from Americans about Biden's mental fitness and his ability to run the country. Harris was directly asked about this. Here's how she responded.
Can you say that you were honest with the American people about what you saw in those moments with President Biden as you were with him again and again, repeatedly in that time? Of course. Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished, experienced, and caring in every way that anyone would want if they're president. And you never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him? It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely, that's the reason why you're here, and he's not running for the top of the ticket. Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why. What do you think? I'm running for president of the United States. Joe Biden is not.
So the name of this segment is Receipts. I'm officially calling it that.
I like it.
What did Kamala Harris know about Biden's mental acuity, and when did she know it? Well, let's start with the legendary Carl Bernstein. Here is his reporting based on longtime friends of Joe Biden and what they observed.
Well, these are people, several of them, who are very close to President Biden, who love him, have supported him, and been among them are some people who raised a lot of money for him. And they are adamant that what we saw the other night, the Joe Biden we saw, is not a one-off, that there have been 15, 20 occasions in the last year and a half when the president has appeared somewhat as he did in that horror show that we witnessed. There have been numerous instances where the president has lost his train of thought, can't pick it up again. There was a fundraiser at which he started at the podium, and then he became very stiff, according to people there, as if it were almost a kind of rigor mortis.
Oh,
It's brutal, Harris. And that's longtime friends noticed, but Kamala Harris didn't?
well, and that was several days after the June 27th debate. And we forget how big of a news cycle this created. So, yeah, I don't know how she wouldn't have known, even if she had watched it. People at the top of like strategy and analysis food chains were talking about it. Journalists were talking about it. Yeah, I think that the disingenuous answer to that question that she seems to be giving now, either a non-answer and silenced, or I don't know what you mean, these are not the droids you're looking for, it really makes her out to be somebody who's out of touch. Like, Americans want to know the truth, and they want to know that you can recognize the truth and that you're willing to tell the truth and try to solve the problems with the truth in tow. This looks problematic, and it kind of feeds that drama, Kaylee, of are they okay behind the scenes, Biden and Kamala? Because you saw, I mean, Al Gore probably wishes now or back then that he walked away from Bill Clinton, or if he was going to, he needed to do it earlier. Same thing with her.
Yes. Now, Charles, we cannot bring a Carl Bernstein receipt without a Bob Woodward receipt. So Woodward and Bernstein, the legendary Watergate reporters, in Woodward's upcoming book, here's what Alex Thompson found. Woodward reports in his new book that Biden donors began expressing concerns about Biden's mental fitness in June of 2023. At a Los Gatos event, Biden was frighteningly awful, and like your 87-year-old senile grandfather, he could not wait to sit down and only took 2 prearranged questions. He struggled to find the word veteran. The crowd was unsettled. He goes on to say, in a separate event, Biden told the same story 3 times. So since June of 2023, but Kamala never knew.
Right. I honestly believe there were signs of this before the election, before the process, and that the Democrats chose to go along with Biden. You know, they felt, hey, you know, they had an opportunity to nip this in the bud. So it's obviously to everyone that she knew. What was really intriguing to me, though, is the cavalier way she left it. I don't know if you guys remember the movie Goodfellas.
Yes.
Yeah.
When he's going to get married. He's going to get married. So what's going on? He said, he didn't make it. Listen, we did everything we could, and that's that. This is going to say. Cavalier treating this guy. President Trump's point, it's sort of a mini coup. Biden came out with a letter saying, these people voted for me. I am the nominee. I'm not leaving. He really wanted to say, this whole process began, and no one stepped in.
As an attorney, you know the importance of eyewitness accounts. What I just played for you were secondary accounts from sources, but there was an eyewitness account from Olivia Nuzzi in New York Magazine that came out. And here's what Olivia Nuzzi said. After an event with the president, the reporters were standing outside of the room, so they had just seen Biden. And she wrote this, exiting the room after the photo, the group of reporters, not instigated by me, I should note, made guesses about how dead Biden appeared to be. Percentage-wise, 40%, one of them asked. These are reporters that saw it. So you have longtime friends and now reporters, but Kamala didn't see anything.
Look, to the 40% point, I think that's generous, number one. Number two, absolutely. Guys, we know that he has been propped up from his inner circles, from the apologetic media, from everything forever, for so many years. We know that, in fact, when he was sworn in, that was, or taking the oath of office, that was frankly past his time. You are right that he was sore, he was wounded, he was absolutely injured by the fact that he was dethroned. But the reality was he was frankly well past the intellectual arc that he should have been at to assume the presidency. And what I saw in Kamala Harris's answers, to the point about being an attorney, I'm no Jack Tremarco. However, that was such a sign of stress. The looking to the right, the searching for words, the not being prepared. She was stressed by that question and she was woefully unprepared. And I feel, as someone who was part of the dethroning, why do you not have a more solid answer?
There you
Of
go.
course you are lying. Of course we have seen him decompensating and aging and half dead for months. We've been talking about it here forever. We've been polite. We've been journalistically objective. I've probably been less so. And I think the whole point is it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
So now her saying that, we know you're lying, but I'm tired and wish that a presidential candidate would be a little more smooth in reassuring me, because that guy has the nuclear code still. And you are telling me that that guy is the one saying President Trump is the threat and in charge of the nuclear codes? Get out.
Emily, but here's what she told us. When Robert Hur sat down for hours upon hours with Biden and said he's a well-meaning but elderly old man not fit to stand trial, here's what Kamala Harris said. This is the cherry on top of our receipts.
So the way that the president's demeanor in that report was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts and clearly politically motivated, gratuitous.
So Lily, Carl Bernstein, wrong. Bob Woodward, wrong. Olivia Nuzzi, wrong. Robert Hur, wrong. Kamala, I guess she was tired.
Again, it's an opportunity to rise up to what leadership is about. And sometimes as leaders, you have to own up to the truth and say it openly the way people want to hear it.
That's right.
I think you honor the legacy, because we cannot deny there is a legacy with a sitting president with a long career that President Biden has had. Will you honor more of that by acknowledging the greatness that he's left before this moment, this season in his life? Aging shouldn't be demonized, but we are, and we're dancing around it as if it's not a thing. We've seen it with our parents. I saw it with my own father before he was passing, and it doesn't make him any less or the legacy any less. She could lean into that and acknowledge her strength in fresh leadership without just looking the other way as if it's not there.
Yeah. And when you're making decisions in the Situation Room about the withdrawal of Afghanistan, we have a right to question the mental acuity. More on Number next.
In this crazy world, how do you protect and grow your investment portfolio and your retirement money? The smart investor has their money in a guaranteed product that goes up with the market. Their gains lock in. And when the market goes down, they don't lose money. Forward with their money, never backward. And we do it for our clients every day. If you have at least $100,000 to invest, get your investor's guide and see if it's right for you.
Good Ranchers is delivering American-sourced proteins the way it used to be, from farm to family.
Over 30% of the food sold in grocery stores goes to waste, and many of us don't give it a second thought.
Our meat and seafood is individually portioned and vacuum sealed, locking in freshness and flavor,
allowing you to feed your family with what you need while reducing waste.
Visit GoodRanchers.com and discover American meat delivered.
These bills are crazy.
She has no idea she's sitting on a gold mine. She doesn't know that if she owns a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, she can sell all or part of it to Coventry for cash, even a term policy.
Even a term policy?
Even on term.
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-496-9200 or visit coventrydirect.com.
With bugs, the struggle is real. That's why you need Zevo traps. Zevo attracts and traps bugs 24/7 using a blue and UV light with no odor and no mess for effortless protection. Zevo, people friendly, bug deadly.
Do you have subscriptions that are forgotten or even hidden? See and cancel them all in one place with Experian. Download the app and see how much you could save.
Kamala, after a day off, more struggles on the campaign trail after another disastrous interview. We got full coverage, all happening tonight, live on Hannity.
Band-Aid Pro Heal creates an ideal environment for 60% better healing.
Take action with Rogaine, the #1 dermatologist recommended brand. Rogaine. Keep your head in the game. Help.
Oh, my leaf filter? I just scheduled an appointment online and the inspection was a breeze. They explained everything.
Leaf Filter's technology protects your gutters for good.
Now, my home is protected.
Call 833 Leaf Filter or visit leaffilter.com.
That happens a lot, but SafeLight could have helped. So don't let that little chip spoil your trip.
SafeLight Repair, SafeLight Replace.
For most of my career, I've been involved in developing programs, developing courses in universities and colleges across the United States. And when I heard about this program, the Classical Liberal Arts degree, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. If I could pick any program in the world to be involved in, this was the one. And this was the best combination with this other element that involved real student interaction.
13 days to go until Election Day. Democrats pulling out all the stops to try to stop Trump. Latest new allegations from 4 years ago leveled at Trump. But are they true? Everybody in the room says no. The number of people apprehended at the border may be down from the peak, but what about the so-called gotaways and other people paroled into the country? Jerry Baker will tackle that. Who was responsible for that leak of U.S. intelligence on Israel? Congressman Mike Waltz is here. And Kamala Harris, hemorrhaging support among black men. Will it cost her the election? John Roberts, come join Sandra and me. Top of the hour for America Reports. We'll see you then.
Former President Trump has been courting young male voters and a demographic that he sees as key to his path to the White House. We've seen him go viral after wowing crowds of thousands at UFC events. We've seen him make TikTok videos and joke around with WWE star Logan Paul on his podcast. And bring the Nelk Boys, who have a massive youth following, on his airplane. Now Trump is set to add the #1 most streamed podcast to all of that. Trump will appear on the Joe Rogan Experience this Friday, and a New York Times guest essay says it's the latest example of Trump, quote, bro whispering, warning that Republican outreach to young male voters has the potential to cost the Democrats big time on Election Day. Kaylee, your take.
One person's bro whispering is another person's smart politics. Because New York Times, we got 17.5 million YouTube subscribers, Joe Rogan, 14 million Spotify, the largest podcast in the world. This is brilliant to go on Joe Rogan's podcast. And I would just say this, Harry Ensign at CNN noted that in the data he's seen from those who have switched from Joe Biden to Trump, the one commonality he can find in the data is they listen to Joe Rogan. So really smart move, Donald Trump.
Yes.
All right, Lily.
Yes, great marketing yet again. 80% of the listeners are young men. And we're seeing that number just compound. Even recently, let me just give you some numbers that even made me stop for a minute. In places like Arizona and Nevada, which we know are battlegrounds, let's say Nevada, 53% of Latino men ages 18 to 34 are supporting President Trump versus 44 Harris. And that number kind of repeats all throughout. So it's all demographics, is young men overall who want to believe in that American dream, who are thinking, hey, I want to start a home. I want to buy one. Is it affordable? Maybe not. I want to start a new business. And it's resonating above the noise of personality. It goes back to policy.
All right, before we move on, former President Trump on his upcoming visit to Joe Rogan, he called into the Brian Kilmeade show. Let's watch.
Word is out that you're going to sit down with the #1 podcaster in the country, Joe Rogan. You met him a couple of times. Why is this the right time to do the interview? It's going to go about 3 hours. That's a huge commitment with a guy with everything's in play.
Well, I don't know. I think he talked about doing it, and I don't know. We talked about it for a long time, and I think he's a nice guy. I've met him a couple of times at the fights. And I don't know. That just seems something to do. It's no real strategy there, Brian. I do it, and I do a lot of shows, good, bad, or indifferent. I do a lot of shows, and they come out good. We're leading. We won the Republican nomination in a record time, and it's the fastest anyone's ever won it. And we're doing very well.
All right, let me bro whisper to you.
Question number 2. So I think about this, and I think about the debate. In the traditional media, how Trump blew it. Some of the things he talked about, even the political experts were recoiling. But this is what they love on these podcasts, keeping it real. Yeah, they were eating the cats. Yeah, this kind of just conversations that people have. I'm saying these are real conversations. These aren't made up. Some political consultant says, look this way, do this, and say that. No. Just say what the hell is on your mind, have a conversation, good, bad, or indifferent. And by the way, you heard the President Trump saying that's how he goes into these things.
Interesting. Emily.
Remember when I told you guys a story about that big dinner I had here and someone left the table sort of angry and after finding out where I worked, and it was the one person in the 12-person table who hadn't ever watched this network. And my point is, all of the vilification of those people for Joe Rogan who said guys who listen to it need therapy and the like, actually haven't listened to it. Because if you did, you would see that it is just a simple conversation between two individuals, and the host does not have agenda. Joe is just asking questions. And that is why there is a rabid following. It is not because they subscribe to an ideology. It is that they subscribe to being curious. And so the vilification that the Democrats and the libs have done of Joe Rogan and these podcasts is so off, because they are alienating the majority of the population that said, actually, I just wanted to think for myself. I just wanted to learn and hear and make my own decision. So that is what the Democrats have been missing this whole time.
Gosh, that is so profound. I experienced some of what you're saying after the all-women town hall in Cumming, Georgia. People were more focused on me. Journalists were more focused on me than they were on the former president and all those women of every ilk in the audience. It was weird. And I get it now. I don't even think they watched. That's so amazing. More outnumbered in a moment. I hadn't even considered that.
Homeowners, need cash but worried you can't get a home loan because of your credit? Here's great news. At NewDay, we've been granted automatic authority by the VA to make our own loan approval decisions. In fact, if you've had credit challenges and missed a payment along the way, you're more than 5 times more likely to get approved for the NewDay 100 VA cash out loan. No one knows veterans like NewDay USA.
Call 1-844-625-4552.
Dr. Box, there were many failed attempts to fix my teeth. I retouched all my wedding photos, and it was even affecting my health. I trusted you because you specialize in dental implants. You created a permanent solution and customized my teeth so it still felt like me. My new teeth have improved my life and changed my future. Thank you. You're so welcome.
Get the smile you want from the #1 provider of fixed full arch dental implants in the U.S. Schedule a free consultation.
At Biz2 Credit, we know nothing should get in the way of your business. When you need to expand, it's time for the right financing.
Time for Biz2 Credit.
When bills are piling up, you might need extra cash to get through the month. When it's time for new equipment,
time for Biz2 Credit.
Our fast and convenient online process makes it easy to get the funding you need. It's time to take your business to new heights. Go to biz2credit.com/time or call 800-200-2891. Biz2 Credit. Funding what's next.
What will you do when the power goes out? Power outages can be unpredictable and inconvenient, but with a Generac home standby generator, your life goes on uninterrupted because you'll have power when you need it the most.
The number one thing to prepare for is extended power outages. Don't make it so hard on yourself. Have a Generac home standby generator.
And special financing and low monthly payment options are available. Call or go online now to request your free quote. Power your life with Generac.
If you're looking for a nutritional supplement that really makes a difference, look at Immuno 150.
My life and my health have changed since I began taking Immuno 150. The pain and inflammation in my joints is gone.
I can hardly believe how much my health has improved within 6 weeks of starting Immuno 150. I have more energy, my pain is gone, and I've lost weight too.
I have noticed when driving my truck all day, it tends to give me more energy and keeps me more alert.
Since I've been taking Immuno 150, I've seen tremendous changes in my body, from the pain in my hands being gone to the brain fog being gone. It must be the 70 minerals.
This is an example of what we hear from thousands of customers. Look at the 2 videos on our website and place your order for Immuno 150 online or call 888-316-2224. You won't believe what 7 times more minerals can do for you. 888-316-2224. Order now.
Type 2 diabetes? Discover the Ozempic Trizone. I got the power of 3. I lowered my A1C, CV risk, and lost some weight. In studies, the majority of people reached an A1C under 7 and maintained it. I'm under 7. Ozempic lowers the risk of major cardiovascular events such as stroke, heart attack, or death in adults also with known heart disease. I'm lowering my risk. Adults lost up to 14 pounds.
I lost some weight.
Ozempic isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. Don't share needles or pens or reuse needles. Don't take Ozempic if you or your family ever had medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2 or is allergic to it. Stop Ozempic and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Gallbladder problems may occur. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes. Taking Ozempic with a sulfonylurea or insulin may increase low blood sugar risk. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems. Living with type 2 diabetes?
That's about the power of 3 with Ozempic.
Well, the Trump hating is in full effect. Outside of the vice presidential residence right now, Kamala Harris, outside the Naval Observatory, is reacting to former Chief of Staff John Kelly's remarks, claiming former President Donald Trump complimented Hitler. And she is saying that Trump is part of the problem. Listen for yourself. It's live.
And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want? Thank you.
All right, from the Naval Observatory, there you saw it live. The Vice President Kamala Harris reflecting on this article in The Atlantic that was published yesterday that suggests a couple of things. First of all, that Donald Trump was praising the generals that Hitler had because they were loyal to him. And then secondly, that he said something disparaging about Vanessa Guillen, who was a 20-year-old soldier at Fort Hood, Texas, who was murdered back in April of 2020. We got lots of reaction to all of this just ahead, Sanders. We start off on a Wednesday.
We will indeed. I'm Sandra Smith here in New York. John, good to be with you. Harris saying it's troubling and dangerous that Trump would invoke Hitler. She said from the steps there, this is a window into who Trump is. Talking about Trump's former chief of staff, Kelly's comments showing what she said, the former president wants a military that is loyal to him. You are correct, John. We will have plenty to dig into as the hours go on here.
All right. All of this happening with just 13 days until Election Day. No surprise there. Let's bring in Kash Patel. He's a senior national security advisor to former President Trump and served in Trump's first administration at the Pentagon. So, Kash, first of all, let's address what the vice president said a moment ago, that Trump is praising Hitler, according to John Kelly, his former chief of staff. who was also the Secretary of Homeland Security. He doesn't want a military that's loyal to the Constitution. He wants a military that's loyal to him. You worked in the Pentagon. What do you say?
Hey, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me. Look, I was Chief of Staff of the Department of Defense, and what I saw was a man withdraw out of multiple theaters of conflict. What I saw was a commander-in-chief who brought home over 50 hostages and detainees from around the world. That's more than every president before him combined. What I saw was a man at almost every single dignified transfer of the fallen and spent countless hours with the families of the fallen, giving them the love and care that they need. And most importantly, securing the financial assistance that they need. I saw this man host these individuals and their families in the Oval Office. I saw him prioritize our veterans and our uniformed military members to make sure they had the weapons that they needed and the munitions that they needed, especially if we were going to send them overseas to fight another man's war. And I saw, most importantly, more than anything, invoke the Constitution when it came to the National Command Authority and execute the mission, the no-fail mission of the United States of America and the Department of Defense to secure our freedom. So they can threaten whatever they want. And we could talk about the Vanessa Guillen story. I was there as his Chief of Staff of the Department of Defense for that one. But I saw a man as a Commander-in-Chief and President Donald Trump who fought our veterans and the military. And if they want to call him Hitler and try to print out more disinformation, I guess that's all they got, because Kamala Harris could have brought home the hostages right now in Israel from a war she started with $7 billion she gave to Iran, and she hasn't brought home any of them. She started 2 more world wars.
All right, so you mentioned Vanessa Guillen, who was that young soldier at Fort Hood, Texas, who was murdered, and then her body was dumped in some wetlands. This article in The Atlantic that talks about Trump praising Hitler's generals also talks about the idea that in December of 2020, after meeting with the family in the Oval Office, and I attended that meeting, I was the poll reporter that day, that he had offered to pay a portion of her funeral costs. There was a meeting, you were there, Chris Miller was there, the acting Secretary of Defense, Mark Meadows was there, Ben Williamson was there, I believe Mark Milley was there as well, where the subject of the funeral and the payment came up. Trump apparently said he was upset with the cost of the funeral that he had agreed to pay for, said something disparaging about her, and refused to pay. Was any of that true?
Absolutely not. When we brought to the attention the tragic murder of serving in our armed forces, President unilaterally stated we were going to give her the honor and dignity she needs and her family assistance she needs. President ensured that the Department of Defense gave Vanessa Guillen full military honors and paid for the entire financial package that was needed to secure and honor her memory. And if you don't want to believe me, a person who was there in the Oval Office along with Chris Miller, then believe the family. Vanessa Guillen's own sister and mother came out yesterday and specifically said that Donald Trump could not have been more gracious, caring, and loving as a commander-in-chief. And they said that what the Atlantic printed were outright lies, and they're desecrating the memory of the fallen. It is absolutely disgusting for me, who ran the Department of Defense, to see the politicization of our members, of our men and women who wore the cloth of our nation to defend us and our freedoms, and then to come out at the 11th hour to try and make up more stories. It's better that we question the folks and the sources like the Mark Milleys of the world, who took it upon himself to call our enemies in China and discuss war planning operations and politicize the Department of Defense rather than execute the National Command Authority and safeguard our mission. We are so sorry that Vanessa Guillen's family is going through this, but Donald Trump ensured that the DOD would pay for it. And what he said afterwards was maybe even more convincing of his commander-in-chief's command. He said if the military didn't pick up the tab, he would in its entirety. That's the commander-in-chief I want.
I want to come back to what the vice president said in just a moment, but again, it was July 30th, 2020. I was in the Oval Office. I was the poll reporter when Vanessa Guillen's family, including Myra, her sister, were there. Here's what her sister said to the president about him meeting with the family, and he did it privately, and then opened up the Oval Office meeting to cameras because he wanted to get more attention placed on this. Listen to what Myra Guillen said.
I want to thank you for taking the time, taking us in. It's an honor to be able to meet you, and I know you're going to help us. And, honoring our sister, passing the bell. And of course, I want to point out how is it that her chain of command fell drastically.
Yeah, I mean that was quite a moment there. It was somber. It was respectful. I know the family very much appreciated it. All right, let's come back to what the vice president said a minute ago. This was at the top of her remarks. Listen here, Cash.
So yesterday we learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oaths to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify in his mind as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials. It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room. And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there, and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this: we know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want? Thank you.
So, Cash, I'm not quite sure why a presidential candidate comes out to react to a story in the way that she did, particularly a story that, even if it were true, is at least 4 years old and not older than that, because John Kelly was gone as chief of staff not too far into the administration. And why would it come out now, just 13 days until Election Day?
Because they want to put President Trump and his powerful national security policy on defense. We are not going on defense. When President Trump was a commander in chief, he went on offense. He ended the forever wars. He crushed the narco traffickers. He brought home hostages. He ended child sex trafficking. And he was brave enough to use military assets in an expansive order to keep not only Americans safe, but the global world order safe. He made sure the DOD was no longer politicized and weaponized. Every one of the names she mentioned, all those individuals begged and auditioned to be in the positions they got. And when President Trump told them that the Department of Defense is a civilian chain of command, just like President Washington or our Constitution designated it to be, they did not like that. They were fighting off 60 years of the defense industrial complex owning the Department of Defense, and Donald Trump restored civilian authority to the chain of command. And he executed that when he asked for an investigation into Vanessa Guillen's death, tragic death, so we know what actually happened, and so the military can provide her the full honors and designation she deserves. That's the commander-in-chief they want. What they want now is us to react to headlines, and I'm going to remind the world what Donald Trump did as our commander-in-chief. And I am going to remind the world that he was the one that did not politicize it and did not bend the knee to Washington, D.C. and the generals that have been going in and out of the defense industrial complex, raking in tens of millions of dollars off of another man's war and sending men and women to die for matters that aren't our own. That's what they are afraid of, that President Trump will restore the DOD, the civilian chain of command, the Constitution demands, and safeguard this world and our nation.
All right, Kash Patel, the former chief of staff at the DOD. Kash, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us on short notice. Sandra, it is kind of unusual. Again, this comes out 13 days left to the election. It looks like everybody's pulling out all the stops that they can to try to stop the Trump train, which seems to be gaining a lot of momentum. You wonder why, if John Kelly's making these allegations now, he didn't make them when he published books about his time in the presidency. A lot of people are saying that the timing of all of this and the subject material is very curious.
No doubt. You get the sense the countdown is on. 13 days to go, right, John? Meanwhile, to another live event, JD Vance is speaking in Clark County, Las Vegas. Nevada. He's on the ground there in Las Vegas talking to voters. Let's dip in here and take a bit of this.
It's particularly important to Nevadans. And look, this is a huge thing I care about. You know, the first millennial on a major party presidential, vice presidential ticket. I'm 40 years old. Now, I used to go around and complain because I turned 40 a couple months ago, and I used to complain about turning 40. And then somebody would come up to me and say, I just turned 70, so shut the hell up about how you're mad about your age. So I stopped talking about that. Here's the crazy thing is my generation, I'm speaking particularly to folks in my generation and a little bit younger, Donald Trump and I, if you work hard and play by the rules, we're going to fight for your ability to afford the American dream of home ownership. You ought to be able to own a home if you work hard and play by the rules in this country. You ought to be able to afford a decent place to live. Now, we talk a lot about illegal immigration on this campaign, and rightfully so. I think it's maybe the biggest crisis confronting the United States of America. And we'll talk about the effect it has on public safety and the effect that it has on our social services. But let's start with talking about the fact that when you open the border and let 25 million people into your country, you drive up the cost of housing for American citizens. It's a simple supply and demand, my friends. We got to do two things to lower the price of housing. Two things to lower the price of housing for Nevadans is we've got to build more houses and we've got to deport the illegal aliens so that America can help to American citizens. Friends in the media don't like to do this. They like to talk about building more homes. And by the way, we're going to build millions of new homes when Donald Trump is president. Here's how we're going to do it. First of all, we're going to drill, baby, drill, lower energy costs, and that's going to make it easier to build homes. We're going to stop the ridiculous regulations that make it harder for our construction companies and our workers to build homes in the first place. And the third thing we're going to do, especially in Nevada, is we have got so many acres of federal land that are being totally unused, but we could build houses on that federal land and make it more affordable for American citizens to afford a good life. That's what we can do. And by the way, you can open up some of those lands while still protecting and preserving our beautiful national parks. You know, Kamala Harris wants to say that you can't do both of these things at the same time. You all know there's a lot of federal land out there that isn't being used for anything, but it could be used for American homes, for American citizens. So let's change that. But it doesn't matter how many homes you build, my friends, if you let in millions upon millions of illegal aliens who shouldn't be here, we're not going to have enough homes for our people. Nevada has a shortage of about 70,000 affordable housing units. Think about that. That's 78,000 American families who should be able to get into a nice home but can't because of Kamala Harris's policies. And here's the thing. When you bring in 25 million illegal aliens, and I think that's about the number that we have in this country, and you gotta put them somewhere. And oftentimes we're putting them up in first-class hotels at the expense of the American taxpayer. Donald Trump and I have a different approach. American homes for American citizens, and that is how we rebuild ownership in this country. Now we talk about illegal immigration, and I do think that it is the biggest driver of the unaffordability of housing too. But there's something else about illegal immigration that we've got to talk about, and it's the effect on public safety. Because, I'll tell you a little story. I was in Valdosta, Georgia. This is probably 6 weeks ago. And Valdosta, if you've seen it in the news, it was hit pretty hard by Hurricane Helene. So spare time to say a prayer for folks who were affected by that storm. There's still a lot of people who are recovering and rebuilding. But I was there before the hurricane, and they took me into the interdiction room, which is where they've got all the marijuana, the fentanyl, everything that they've actually gotten from the Mexican drug cartels. And they showed me a box of candy. And I said, what's that doing there? And they said, oh, that's actually illegal drugs. And I said, wait a second. That looks like Sour Patch, Nerds candy. Like, what is that doing there? And they said that the cartels have figured out that if they disguise drugs as candy, it makes it easier to import into our country. And of course, all of us know what's going to happen. An American child is going to find a bag of that candy on an American playground and is going to open a piece of candy and pay for that with their lives. And that is disgraceful, and it's disgusting, and it's happening because Kamala Harris opened the American southern border. You know what Donald Trump is going to do it? We're going to finish the wall, and we're going to deport. We're going to deport the people who shouldn't be in this country to begin with. Right now, thanks to Border Czar Kamala Harris's open border, right now there are 425,000 criminal illegal aliens in the United States of America. That's more. We're going to need Marines out there. Double the size of the United States Marine Corps. That's crazy. And that's not happened through some act of God. That's happened because our own government isn't doing the job of protecting American citizens. We've got thousands upon thousands of kids who are the children of illegal immigrants who are in our public schools in Nevada. And of course, what happens when you've got teachers who've got to focus on kids who don't even speak English? That means that Nevadan children are getting the short end of the stick and are not getting the education that they deserve. And of course, we know that when you let in hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants into states all across our country, and certainly into Nevada, and we give them free access to health care, emergency room wait times go up, access to hospital services goes down. We are making our own citizens poorer, less safe, less healthy, and less prosperous because Kamala Harris cares more about illegal immigrants than she does about the citizens of the state of Nevada. My friends, that's going to stop when Donald J. Trump is president. I promise you that. And for what it's worth, I don't begrudge people who want to come to the United States of America. They got to go through the proper channels. I don't blame any child whose parent brought them into this country illegally. I blame Kamala Harris for opening up the American southern border. We got to kick her out of there and get a president who believes in border security back in the White House. Now I agree. Now let's talk about something else, which is the economy. My friends, I believe that when we reelect Donald J. Trump, the next president, we are going to unleash a golden age of prosperity in Nevada and all over the United States of America. And it's worth in some ways comparing and contrasting the economic record of Kamala Harris with the economic record of Donald Trump, and also comparing the plans that they have for how we're going to move forward as a country. Kamala Harris is saying that I've never seen this in my life, a politician who is going around the United States of America bragging that she's going to raise taxes, bragging that she wants to let the Trump tax cuts expire, saying to all of you, hey, elect me and for taxes. Who does that? It doesn't make it. I mean, normally, even the politicians who plan to raise your taxes at least lie to you and tell you they're going to cut them.
Okay.
But that's Kamala Harris.
So we're going to continue monitoring these events out of Las Vegas. That is JD Vance talking to voters, rallying a crowd there. Sounded like somebody shouting something just a minute ago. Didn't make quite what that was, John. But as these events go, it is a breaking news afternoon yet again, John.
Well, around here we call that Wednesday.
Pretty much.
And then tomorrow will be Thursday and then Friday as well. But 13 days to go. And it looks like Kamala Harris campaign is in some difficulty. So you can expect to see a whirlwind of negative information coming out about both candidates here as we head into the final stretch.
Full swing. All right, John. I've got Jerry Baker with us now, Fox News contributor and Wall Street Journal editor at large. Jerry, good to have you here. Just what would you say to what you just heard from J.D. Vance there, taking on Kamala Harris on her economic record? Is this the winning message for the Trump-Vance campaign in this moment?
I think it is a very powerful message because it manages to bring together the two primary sources of weakness for Kamala Harris and for the Biden administration, which is the economy and immigration. And he makes the point that, and look, the economy, I know we keep hearing the US economy is doing well, relatively well. It's true by kind of relative standards, but everybody, that just simply ignores the fact that we've seen this enormous increase in prices over the last 4 years, not matched by a significant increase in wages, with very small increase in real incomes for real Americans. That's what people are unhappy about. That explains people's, it's not vibes or, or reading propaganda or anything like that. That explains why people are unhappy with the economy, because we've seen this big increase in prices and wages have hardly kept pace. But what he's done here, I think, in this speech, and I think he's very, very effective at this, and he's linking the weakness of the US economy. And he talks about not just the price issue, but things like the fact that communities have been devastated by drugs, that communities have been devastated by globalization, by businesses going abroad. He's linking that to the immigration crisis that we have too, which is that millions of people have come across the border illegally with all kinds of schemes dreamt up by the Biden and Harris administration, who essentially allow them to do that. And he's saying, look, the Biden-Harris administration cares more about housing and looking after and making sure people who have no right to be in this country, that they have a better standard of living somehow and they have a better life than Native American or American citizens. And I think that's a very powerful message, linking concerns about the economy with the very clear evidence that this administration has taken an approach to immigration that frankly seems to be, let them all come in and we'll support them.
Yeah. It's interesting how you immediately tied in the immigration crisis to the economic one, because you almost can't separate the two. And we've had everyday Americans on this program telling us how greatly they are affected in their communities because of the influx of migrants. And we're talking about communities far from the southern border. Jerry, just want to put some numbers up on the screen as far as the border numbers and those gotaways under the Biden-Harris administration and this border crisis. I mean, we're just talking about massive numbers of gotaways that have been happening. And these are the numbers people are feeling in their local communities. And this is the latest polling on who's more trusted on this issue. It does go to Trump. Those who say they trust him a great deal more on this issue, by double digits, they say it's Donald Trump. Those who say some, it's her. It's dead even on those who say they don't trust them much at all or not at all. Those are pretty big numbers as well. I'll let people decide what they think of that while I give you this brand new news from Griff Jenkins. Our own Griff Jenkins is reporting this right now. Jerry, Fox News can right now confirm, it was a report from earlier today, that DHS has identified more than 600 migrants with possible ties to the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, and more than 100 of those, Jerry, had enough gang confirmation to be deemed, quote, subjects of interest that DHS recommended be placed on the FBI's watch list for transnational criminal organizations. That's just into us now. Griff Jenkins confirming that. Jerry, that is stunning.
It is, and it fits the larger pattern that we've seen, and that's obviously very good reporting there. It fits the larger pattern we've seen of tens of thousands of people coming into the country with known criminal backgrounds, with known connections to gangs or to transnational criminal organizations, it fits that larger picture of just a completely reckless approach to the border. And just back to those numbers that you showed there, Sandra, because they are important too. The Biden administration and Harris are trying to make a big deal out of the fact that the number of encounters at the border, apprehensions at the border, have declined quite significantly since they brought in these measures back in, I think it was June, to tighten procedures at the border. That's completely a statistical mirage, Sandra. It's a piece of sleight of hand, because it is true that those numbers have declined. But as you saw from in that chart that you showed, in that graphic you showed, under this CBP-1 program, this special app that people can essentially short circuit or shortcut the whole asylum process by downloading this app, applying for it, and getting kind of almost automatic temporary 2-year approval to stay in the country while their asylum claim is processed. And we know that they're never going to be caught. They're never going to face court. So what they've done, again, it's a little bit complicated sometimes. What the administration has done is it's basically managed to cut the official numbers of people being apprehended at the border or having to go through that process at the border by giving them, J.D. Vance talks about this a lot and he's absolutely right, by giving them this shortcut, which essentially still enables them to avoid doing all the things you need to do to become a legal citizen of this country or a legal resident of this country, and claiming, hey, look, we've cut the numbers. They haven't cut the numbers at all.
Yeah, and I think I want to end with this because I think it's really important to get this in here. This is Mark Cuban, who we know, Jerry, is out on the trail. He's been stumping for Harris. He's firmly in her camp. He says that he defended the border policies under this administration because it was about compassion. Listen to this.
Yeah. I thought their hearts were too big when Joe came into office, that they didn't know how many people would cross the border, and it got away from them. But they figured it out. They learned.
Their hearts were too big. Vance responded by saying it's not compassionate to allow Mexican drug cartels to sex traffic children into the U.S. United States of America. It's not compassionate.
That was your daughter, not me, dude.
Overdoses.
You know, all I'd say, Sandra, to that is they're so compassionate. They're too compassionate. We don't deserve them, do we? Really, we don't deserve these leaders because they're too good for us. That's ridiculous. They came in intent on overturning all of the Trump restrictions because they wanted to send a signal to people that anybody could come into the United States. They were open. Look, and you can have different views about this. You can think it's as some people do because they want to, admit large numbers of illegal migrants who could then ultimately become U.S. citizens and vote. They think they tend to vote more democratic. Or you can just think that they don't really believe in borders. I tend to take that view, that this administration is full of people with a very progressive view that we shouldn't be imposing a border. It's a completely contrary to the whole idea of law of American values.
A lot to dig into there. Jerry, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sandra.
There's an increasing move towards isolationism in the U.S. Does this concern you?
Of course it does. We are a global power. We have interests all around the globe, and we're going to need to continue to do what's necessary to protect those interests.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin voicing his concerns over the war in Ukraine in an exclusive interview with Fox News as we learn about another nation coming to Vladimir Putin.
That this continues any moment as the Israel's plan to strike. So will Congress get answers? Florida Republican Mike Waltz will weigh in.
Starting a business is never easy, but starting at 8 months pregnant, that's a different story. With the Chase E-card, we got up and running in no time.
Earn unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase with the Chase Think Business Unlimited card from Chase for Business.
Tired of sciatic nerve pain radiating down your leg and lower back? Get relief, finally, with MagnaLife Leg and Back Pain Relief, a combination of 4 active ingredients that get to work fast. So get living.
Available at your local retailer.
We needed a project manager yesterday. We posted a job on ZipRecruiter and had our guy on site 5 days. He was qualified in every way. ZipRecruiter finds the best candidates for all our jobs. They helped us build our dream team. Did it fast.
Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Fox. It's time to grow your business. Create a website. How? GoDaddy. Coding? Nah. But all that writing? Nope. AI. Done. Built.
Let's get to work.
Create a beautiful website in minutes with GoDaddy.
The best part of any of those renovation shows is always the transformation they show you at the end.
I'm Brian Gary here with Brian Price from Renewal by Anderson, and he's going to show us some of their transformations.
Hey, Brian, let me ask you, if you remodeled your kitchen, would you choose the same styles you had?
No.
The same can go for your windows and doors. For example, you're standing here doing the dishes, and these grills totally block your view. With our window style, you can easily see the whole backyard.
The black is really nice too. Okay, here's a question I get all the time. What makes Renewal by Anderson different?
Well, we do offer something that a lot of other window companies and contractors don't, and that's amazing financing options. A lot of times you can upgrade your windows and doors and not pay anything for an entire year.
And do a lot of people finance?
It makes the job even more affordable, so most of our customers finance.
How does your window material compare to vinyl?
Some vinyl windows are really low end, which means they don't always last. Our composite Fibrex material is 2 times stronger than vinyl, so it's warranted to last decades.
Okay, let's shift gears. Let's talk about doors.
Sure, this customer wanted a door with a lot more style. Our door is beautiful, provides enhanced security, and is designed to be weather tight.
Wow, it really changes the whole look.